I'm here in Palm Coast, and I run a conservative women's group, and I have a lot of great, wonderful conservative women in this group and in town, actually, that have great stories, great businesses, great a lot of things. They're almost all from somewhere else. And it's nice to hear their stories and put things together. And I have Robin here with me in the studio today. She's got a story. It's not great, it's sad, but it's important, and I think everybody should hear it. She was diagnosed with breast cancer back in
Last year.
last
Last
year.
year.
She thought it was a simple little thing. She's tried to stay on top of things, being as her mother and other family members have had cancer, breast cancer. She's done everything she is supposed to do to keep ahead of it, and it still snuck up on her and bit her in the butt. But that's pretty much covering it.
Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
and don't cry because I
No,
have
I'm not
makeup
gonna-
on.
No, I'm done crying.
Oh, I know. Well, anyway, here's Robin, and I'd like to introduce her. She's a great conservative woman in our group and in Palm Coast. She doesn't get to come to many things because she does work on Thursdays, but
A working conservative.
working conservative. Well, that's the way most of them are,
Right.
except for me. I'm just old and retired, but I'm busier now that my
Yeah.
husband's retired and stuff than I ever was when he was busy, going to sea.
And I worked with through chemo and radiation.
Oh, goodness.
I worked right through it.
So tell me about it. How was your first diagnosis and how did it come about?
Well, I go every year
Right?
for my annual mammogram. And because like my mother had it, so I was like, I'm not going to get this, and if I do, I'm going to get it early.
I'm gonna
I'll
kick its
catch
butt.
it. And lo and behold, they did a biopsy on something that was caught. And you know something? When I was sitting waiting to get my mammogram, I got weird vibes.
Oh,
And I started getting like anxiety, and I even said like, what is this? Like I almost knew
something was coming.
something was wrong. And I waited a week to get my, you wait a week to get your results. And that whole week I was just
Pins and
beside
needles.
myself. And I've been getting mammograms since I was in my 20s.
Right.
And I never, I figured, and I just knew it. So then I had to go for the biopsy, and the doctor that did the biopsy, he was like, I've seen this, you're going to be fine. This is 100%,
Curable,
fixable. And then I even said to the advocate nurse, like, oh, am I going to need a mastectomy? Because I was freaking out.
Yeah.
And she's like, for this little thing now, you're going to be fine. So I had to go for a lumpectomy. And when you go in for any of those surgeries, they shoot you full of dye. Like they give you needles in your breast, and the dye goes to where the cancer is. So I guess it went
Other
somewhere else.
places.
Yeah. So they took that lump out, but they couldn't get the they call it like the edges, like they
Clear
couldn't,
edges.
yeah, they couldn't clear the edges. And they started to say, I think you're going to need a mastectomy. And I said, oh, here we go. And then I find out like within a month, you're going to need chemo because your cancer was hiding. I go, what do you mean? And they're like, you had another one way in the back. And I was so mad. I thought I was going to get up and throat punch the oncologist because I said, you gave me like 3 mammograms and an ultrasound and an MRI, and none of those picked up this cancer. They all kept saying, everything's clear, you just got this little 9 millimeter
But yeah, little
piece.
bug. Yeah.
Yeah. Nope. There was another one hiding, and she, oh well, your cancer is tricky, and it's like invisible. So I want to tell women, these mammograms are not 100%.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if I didn't grow that second tumor, they would have never saw the one hiding.
Right.
But they never saw that one
Right. Until they did the dye.
until they did the dye and went in to get the first one. So, the only way they saw any cancer on me is with a PET scan.
Uh,
Because now they shoot your whole body full of dye.
well, they want to make sure it's not gone somewhere else.
Right, and it didn't. It
Thank
stayed in
God.
this area, in the tissue and in lymph nodes.
it's
So
in the States,
it
in the
did
lymph
travel
nodes.
to lymph nodes. So that was not good, but today they have medicine for that, which they didn't have not too long ago. So,
Oh, really?
yeah, I take a pill twice a day called Verzenio.
And what does that do?
If there's cancer, hopefully, if there's cancer in your body, it hopefully
Kills it
kills
before
it.
it just gets
Yeah,
started.
and I have to take that for 2 years plus hormone blockers.
So in the meantime, you did go in and have a mastectomy
I had them both removed.
and had them both for
Mhm.
basically for
Well, I don't want
What's
it.
the
They
word?
said it could jump, so they were so like, well, this is very spreadable, and once it's in your lymph nodes, and you have to move
so
fast. You
for
have
prophylactic reasons you
Yeah.
had it the other one taken
So,
out. That's the
to.
word.
Yeah. So this way, if I get, to get reconstructive surgery, I
Now
think
you have
you're
both
better.
boobs
Yeah.
that'll look the same.
Yeah.
Make sure you get them nice and perky.
Because I'm gonna rock those.
Yes, I would definitely.
Cancer has taken my hair.
Yeah,
it has
but
taken.
I want to stop right here. You had a gorgeous, thick, massive mane of hair.
It did.
But I love your gray now. I think you're rocking it. If I had that kind of gray, I would do it too. Mine is just a mousy old ugly
Oh,
pieces of gray, but I love
know.
it. You have
do
natural
get lots
curl.
of compliment, and yes, and my curl is coming back. I wonder though, are some people being really legit with me?
Oh,
But
trust
they
me,
might
you
be.
got to know me by now,
Well,
Robin.
yeah.
Well, ask Alan. I tell it like it is.
But no, I was at work one day, and when we were at the end of the shift and no one was around except all my coworkers, I just flipped my wig off because I was so hot and itchy I couldn't
Yeah.
take it anymore. So I work in a restaurant. So all the waitresses and the cooks, they just looked at me and they were staring, and I go, "What?" And they're like,
We like
"Don't,
it.
yeah." They're like, "Don't put the wig back on.
I
That's
know.
cool."
Yeah.
They were like, "You have a mohawk. It's so cool." They're like, "You have silver hair, you know?"
I know.
And then, like, a few days later, like, every time I went to work, even one of the patrons in the restaurant would say, "I'm digging your vibe," because I would wear, I would put makeup on and my big old earrings and,
Yeah. When I first seen you without your wig, I'm like, oh wow, she's got pretty gray hair.
yeah, people thought I cut it on purpose. I was like, no.
Yeah.
Because
Tell them it's cooler for the summer.
yeah, some people say, "Oh, I love your haircut." I said, "Well, this is not really a haircut. This is growing back from chemo." And it's funny, their face
Their
just
faces go.
I'm like, "No,
"Ah,
don't get
yeah."
sad. It's fine."
Don't be sad.
Don't
You
be
gotta
sad.
laugh at it sometimes.
I got through chemo pretty good. A lot of people have a problem. I got through it pretty good.
I'm a wimp, and I told you.
They put a port in like your neck, chest, and then they put it in. And I had to do it every 21 days. I had 6 treatments, and they gave me pretty harsh stuff, but apparently it didn't really do what it was supposed to do.
Yeah, really.
They
So
give you,
then did you do radiation
yes,
also? So
I
you had to
did
do that
25
also.
treatments. Now, I'll tell you what, radiation is a bitch.
Is that worse than the chemo?
In some ways,
If-
it's like getting 3rd-degree burns, and
Ugh.
you here you are blistered up, and the blisters
Oh.
are popping and oozing,
Oh yeah.
and you have to keep going and getting hit with the, and I'm like, I laugh now when I go to the dentist and they got to take x-rays and they put that
thing on
thing
me.
on my chest. I laugh. I go, "Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Please."
Yeah.
I said,
this
"I'm
is-
radioactive."
hold my beer.
Yeah, hold my beer. I'm radioactive now.
Yeah. Well, I hope, if God forbid anything ever happens to me, I have positive people like you around me that are going to keep cheering me on instead of,
Well, in the beginning,
I know
think
you
it-
were having
yeah,
were having a hard time.
it took
but you-
me 3 months. Well, too, I'm almost 60. So when I grew up, mom, my mother-in-law, a teacher, nobody lived,
Right.
no matter what.
Back in the when Chuck was in the
You
Navy,
didn't live.
I had
But they have, and I have seen going to, the chemo room in the hospital, and I made friends, and I made friends with the nurses, and they've really come a long way with a lot of cancers.
oh yeah, thank goodness, thank
Yeah.
goodness.
You know,
When do you
I've
get to ring the bell?
well, I did ring a bell after radiation,
Oh, did
but
you?
I don't know.
Okay.
I
I didn't
think
know if
I'm
you had
on
to be
a.
in remission.
I have to take. Well, I'm in like a remission now,
Oh,
but I think they're like I have to take that pill for 2 years, and then I think if I go over 5 years without anything,
then you're in full remission.
yeah,
And then you can bang that bell. Yeah. It's scary. I
yeah,
mean, it's
yeah,
one of the scary things that we deal with as we're getting older. It's like, is it going to be a heart attack? Is it going to be a stroke? Is it going to be cancer? I mean, I'm fixing to go to my colonoscopy, which is so much
I
fun.
know.
I know you're jealous of that.
I am. I
And-
did a couple of those, and I don't really want to do anymore.
well, the only good thing is you lose instant 5 pounds.
yeah. Well, the Verzenio, that's one of the side effects. It's
Oh.
almost every morning. It's like I'm,
Oh, there you go.
having
keep
a
the weight off.
colonoscopy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I can take an Imodium every day with that pill.
Yeah. There you
It's
go.
unreal. Just
Well-
they give you all this stuff to fight something, but then I think sometimes the cure.
Is worse than
Yeah, like because I felt
disease.
fine when they diagnosed me with cancer. I was fine.
Yeah.
Now I get very tired. I
Yeah.
have fatigue so bad.
Oh, I can imagine.
Like my morning is good. That's why I'm glad my job is a morning shift because
Yeah.
I come home, I have a little lunch, and I go to bed until almost 6 o'clock sometimes.
Well, you do what you got to do.
I know, but
But
to
hopefully
sleep, I'm
as-
like, why am I sleeping so much?
As you
know?
go along, hopefully you'll start getting more of that back, I would think. I
Right.
hope.
But also there's the other side of cancer. Like I said, you lose your hair, you're gonna lose body parts. I lost a good friend.
a good friend.
Yeah,
Why?
I don't know. It was very weird. It was like she just went silent after my diagnosis, and then she was saying, I said, "Where are you? I need my friend." And she said, "Are you done being nasty?" And I said, "What are you talking about?" And she claimed I posted something we talked about on Facebook and it pissed her off. But I was like, that's weird because if I did, I've known you since
Why
the
didn't you
8th
come to
grade.
me
Why
and
didn't
say-
you call me and say, what did you do here? Like,
Bitch, what'd you say?
and yeah. And then and she wouldn't even talk to me. So it was in texting.
Oh, and that's the
And
worst.
And then there was some things like you picked cancer over me. Why don't you go talk to
Oh.
your cancer friends because they understand?
Oh my. Okay,
And I'm
she's
like-
obviously a child.
And I'm thinking
Immature.
this is guilt.
Jealousy
I've had
because you're getting some sort of
I don't
attention.
know. You know what I think it is? I think honestly we were so close that I think she's scared, and I don't think she wants to stay in case something happens. I don't think she can handle it. I don't know what it is, but I do have other girlfriends that went through breast cancer or something else. And I did get a phone call from one of them, and they said, "You're going to lose it's like when I went through a divorce.
Yeah.
You're going to
You
lose.
get to
And I
pick,
kept
yeah.
saying, I'm not going to lose friends over this. And with a divorce, I did.
Well,
And
they have
then
to
with
pick.
cancer, I did.
Oh, I get to keep her. Yeah.
And I just said, this is bizarre, But at the same time, I met a lot of new friends
Oh yeah.
with
And you'll find
cancer
out who
or-
your friends
yes,
are.
with or without cancer.
In
and-
tragedy, that's the
and
thing.
the
When
people
things
I
are
work
bad,
with are like that is my cheerleading squad.
You're welcome.
Big time.
you're welcome.
Mm.
Remember who got you
Yeah,
that job?
you did. And
I sure did.
Candy.
Yeah, I hooked you up. That's right. I knew somebody. When she was saying I need somebody mature, responsible,
I don't know how mature. I am.
friendly, outgoing, and I said, I can't do it because she wanted me to do it, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not driving all the way to St. Augustine, but
It's not that bad of a drive. I
I
mean,
guess
it's
you get
30
used to it.
minutes. Yeah, it's
I
30
do a lot of books
minutes.
on tape, but anyway, I said I do know somebody I think might be good, and you guys finally connected, and it's been a marriage.
Yeah, I love that job.
It
I
seems
have to I
great.
do have to work on holidays, but even still it's morning.
Yeah, so you can go home, and
Even like Christmas morning. And and it's nice because I
if
get
you
to
had
see
little kids,
yeah,
you
it's
don't have it.
different, but it's,
Right.
I'm not going to see
You probably
anybody
get to
until
enjoy the little kids that come in that day.
yeah. And my coworkers, we do
Right.
presents a little bit or
Yeah.
we have fun that day working. And Easter, I'll probably work Easter. Um but we're going to close a little early, and that's fine because nothing really happens anyway until
Yeah.
after like noon, you
Well,
know.
I used to be a waitress, and I know that's one of the funnest jobs I ever had. I mean, and if you're the right kind of person that talks to people that want to be talked to, or you
Mhm.
have to leave the ones that don't want to be talked to alone,
Right.
you got to know which is which. And
Well, I have good people skills because I was a hairdresser for 28 years.
yeah, well,
So,
I think I must have too because I did quite well as a waitress.
yeah.
And
Yeah, you do. You get to know people like even before
yeah,
I could tell people just the way they walk, like
yeah.
their footsteps. I'm
They
like,
just want
"Oh,
the
I'm not going to
menu.
talk
Shut
to
up.
yeah."
Yeah, exactly. I can. Before I got married, I worked a graveyard here in Florida, Orlando, and
Mhm.
I worked a graveyard. Back when the bars closed at 2 o'clock in the morning and stuff, and I got to deal with all the fun drunks and everything. But they'd ask me for my phone number, and I always gave them the number to Dollar Prayer. But we had a good time. Me and my friend used to,
Mhm.
and he was gay, very gay. But me and him, I don't know if anybody, do you ever hear of Ranch House?
I've heard of that.
It was a big chain of restaurants here in Florida. Uh, they're a high scale hamburger.
Yeah, I've heard of it, but I don't think I've eaten in one.
Well, they don't have them anymore. They've all closed down. So unless you've been here for,
Yeah. I've been here since 91.
well, uh,
Mm.
I think there probably was still a couple in Orlando at that time.
And well, I always, being a hairdresser, I always was around gay men, and I had more
Oh
fun
my
with them
God,
than the
they
women.
make the best friends
Oh my
sometimes.
God.
I
Every
know.
woman needs a gay guy in her life.
I agree.
And well, now I'm getting ready to do plastic surgery. And
What size? You gonna go double D?
I told him small, because I told him, I said, I was very big.
Yeah,
So honestly, not having them, I don't really miss them.
yeah.
I really
Well, mine are more
I look
long.
a little thinner. Number one, number
I
two,
know.
things fit. So I
You can get
told him,
buttons shut.
yeah,
I hear you.
and I told him don't make them that big, and he said no, no, I won't. But I'm pretty sure my plastic surgeon is gay, and I absolutely loved him, even though he wasn't.
Flamboyant.
Well, he was
Oh,
flamboyant, but he wasn't very taught. He was all
business.
business, but he came in and he had on dress pants and and his shirt was open like back in the 70s, John Travolta.
Oh,
And then he had on a scarf, like a silver and black scarf, and when he walked, it like flew in the wind.
oh. And you're thinking,
And he's talking to me about the
boobs.
surgery, and I look down at his feet, and he's got big fuzzy multicolored slippers on. And I just thought in my head, yes,
I want this,
you.
man.
I want this guy to give me new boobs.
Exactly.
But yeah, he told me I'm doing what they call a deep flap. I'm not getting implants.
Oh,
I was told by my doctor I'm still fairly young at 58. That they could move or not sit right, especially on my one side where they went radical with the
they put a
mastectomy.
balloon in and stretch
Well, I don't know. They put those silicone things or whatever.
to
I don't
stretch you
know.
out. No, to
Well, I think they put what they call expanders in.
yeah, expanders.
And then they'll do that. But they said you might have to go under the knife a few more times before they get this right. And I said no.
Get it right
So
the first time.
they told me the deep flap is like a one and done operation, and not every plastic. I went all through Palm Coast and Daytona, and even there was a really nice plastic surgeon lady in Ormond, and she says, I agree with you with the deep flap. And she says, I don't do it, but you want to go to someone who does them all the time.
Yep.
And there was a doctor either Jacksonville or Orlando. And I picked the guy in Orlando because he's also special with lymph nodes. Now they had to take all my lymph nodes on the right side.
Yeah.
So every time you go under
But no.
an like I can't fly, I can't get blood pressure cuff.
Why can't you fly?
I don't know. They said it'll swell up.
Really?
I can't fly for a while. Yeah.
You can't flap?
No.
Oh, for a while, but
For a
eventually
while.
you can.
Eventually. No needles, no blood gets drawn, no doing blood pressure. I have to do everything on my
Yeah,
right.
I knew that. Yeah.
So, and like today I have the sleeve on because it hurts, but I don't have lymphedema. There's nothing swollen.
That's good.
But it does hurt, and I wear it to work. And my plastic surgeon said, "Good, wear it when you work. We don't want anything to do anything." So, but he is a specialist with lymph nodes, so that's kind of another reason I picked him. Maybe he can, he'll
Keep
operate
things
more
working
gentle.
good.
Yeah.
Always go for the best.
Yeah.
And if you've got the good insurance,
Well, I have decent insurance,
well,
and and Advent Health takes it, so
there you go.
it's an HMO, but
Well, if they take it, then
'cause
use it.
would you believe the Verzenio pill I have to take is $8,000
Year?
a month?
No.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Can you imagine people that don't have insurance? What do they do?
Die.
Oh,
I don't know. And there was a discrepancy just this past weekend. My medicine did not come. I had to go 3 days without taking it. And I kept calling. I said, "Where's my medicine?" And they said, "Oh, there's a little discrepancy with your insurance. Your cost is $4,000." I said, "You're not getting that."
yeah. You smoking crack?
And
lady?
then I called my insurance company, and the girl said, "Oh, let me check the account and blah, blah." She goes, "No, you owe nothing." So I don't know
What people do.
what's going on. And I even called my doctor. I go right here to the doctors in Palm Coast. We have a very good cancer team.
Do we?
We
Do you go there, that center in front of the new hospital?
Yeah,
Or
they're
from the
they're
hospital?
actually moving into that
Okay.
now. I was going into the hospital, but now they're all moving into that Freytag building.
Right.
But I see Dr. Sai. She's very good and I've met people on the chemo floor that travel just to
Go to her?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good to know. You
So
got
even
somebody
though
that's
every
good.
town and hospital has an oncology
Right.
team, I met some that came to see her. And all the nurses, my last day of chemo, I brought them a bunch of Dunkin' Donuts because I said, you guys made a scary time not so scary.
Yeah. And, well, the nurses are like the tip of the spear. They're the ones that are going to make you feel good. They're the ones that are going to make you comfortable. They're the ones that are going to
Yeah, and
help
they
you.
know they know what you have. They know what like
They,
I was finally diagnosed by the time this was all said and done, they staged me at 3A, stage 3A. First I was a 1, then I was 2.
then you
I'm
were
like, "Oh my
fine.
God." And my oncologist
We're running
said,
out of
"Well,
numbers.
at least you're not a 4." I said, "Gee, thanks." Um but I think it was because there was 1 or 2 I went over a lymph node count, so they put me at 3.
I have a question.
Yes.
When you had your breast MRI,
Mm-hmm.
did you have to lay on your belly going
Yes.
in and your boobs hang down and they sit there and they
Yeah, they
arrange
put
them?
them in a cup, like Madonna cup.
Oh my God, when you're big breasted,
It wasn't
like,
that awful,
oh,
believe
they
it or
had to
not.
take out every layer of padding in that MRI when I had to have one done so that they would hang,
Oh,
and it goes into this, there were like 2 rings and they put them in there and
yeah,
they had to hang all the way. So that means they had to get me up higher and higher. And by the
right,
time I got in, I'm like scrunched into that MRI. And it's the most humiliating
right.
thing. I'm like, just take them off
They
already.
need to do something else because, like, my tumor, I guess, was more on the chest wall.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. All the way back.
Because they
Well,
said
when
it
they
was
do that,
hiding.
when they do the mammogram, I always waiting for them to stick their foot in the middle of your chest and just hang
Right.
on and pull. They stretch them out all the. I've literally
Oh,
had them
I don't
use.
have to do one of
Oh,
those
you
ever
shut up.
again.
See, there's an upside to everything.
Yes. Oh, I found the silver lining and everything.
Oh yeah, but I just one time they had. I mean, they since I've lost weight, they've gotten smaller. You know, they're just longer.
Yeah.
But they had to use 2 screens for one of my boobs. I'm like, oh my god, this is so humiliating. And she's like, I couldn't get it all, but they stretch all the way. You
Mhm.
know that
Oh, they
MRI was made
pull
by a
and they
man.
slant. I mean,
And squish, I'm like, if there'd been a cyst
yeah.
in there, it would have popped by
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, they really
I
slam
know.
you. That's why I was like, really? They
Yeah.
didn't see?
How can they not? Yeah.
But when they tell you it's like you have tricky invisible cancer, like now what do you do with that?
Yeah. Well, I've always had a
And
lot of tissue there too, so
what
it's always
I
been a.
had they called invasive lobular carcinoma.
Oh,
There's two like there's the ductal carcinoma and lobular. Those
in the
are like the
ducts.
two, yeah.
Okay.
And the ones in the duct I think are a little, if you want to say a cancer to get, that's probably a little better.
Yeah, they thought I
Mine
might have one, but it turned out to be a cyst. So I was
mine
like,
was on the outside. That's why it was able to,
spread.
and I probably had it a year
Yeah.
because my last mammogram was perfect. And then I don't
Well,
know.
I'm glad you kept going. And that's the lesson in today
Mhm.
is ladies, you need to get to that mammogram, as I'm wondering when my last one was. But those are really important. You've got to do those checkups because otherwise they're like a loaded
Yeah.
gun pointed right at your heart.
Unless you feel, if you feel uneasy, beg your doctor for a PET scan because
Yeah.
that's the only other way
And
they're gonna find it.
and you felt uneasy.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
we do have our gut reactions
Oh,
and
yeah.
feelings for a reason.
My intuition is strong.
So is mine.
Yeah, I
And
have.
it's scary.
Yeah,
You know, well, I could go into stories, but,
yeah.
you know,
I could think of people, and all of a sudden they call me.
oh, me too.
Yeah.
My dad used to call me all the time. Or if I called him, he'd answer the phone. Hi, Dingbat. Yes,
Mhm.
that's what he called me. I won't. Did I just say that out loud? But I'd say, am I the only person that call you? And he goes, no.
Mhm.
And I was the same way with other people, you know,
Mhm.
not so much on the cell phone, but on the house phone, it's like there was a different ring.
Yeah.
And but it's important to surround yourself with positive people. I think that's a huge thing. That's what got me through with my
Um,
tragedy 2 years ago with my son
Yeah.
dying is the people that I surrounded myself with. It's important that you do your checkups.
I think one of the best things I'm taking away from this is you don't get a second chance at life.
Nope.
So
Let's do our best to make it right.
shit
the
could
first time.
happen. So yeah, like live. So I'm planning some stuff now, and I look at life a little different, and I don't get that upset when someone cuts me off, or I'm just like,
Yeah, exactly.
you know, like I did. Well, how do I want to explain it? Like
I know what
just
you're saying.
see
Things
things
just
differently.
yeah, I can see
At
that.
work, the young, you know, I call them kids. They're in their 20s,
Yeah.
early 30s, and you know, they could be, oh, I'm having a bad day, and I just laugh at them. I'm
Yeah.
like, you want to see a bad day?
Yeah.
Follow me.
Here,
around.
look at
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, follow me around.
Yeah.
I said, it's nothing. I said, and you have your whole life ahead of you. You haven't even, life hasn't even smacked you in the head yet.
No, it hasn't.
You know, I went through a divorce, found out he was nuts and a pimp, and then
Oh, that's nice.
yeah, and then you know,
I think
thought
I've heard that story before.
Yeah.
I think you told me before.
Yeah, and then 10 years later, I get this, like you know,
Well,
enough.
you're with a decent man now,
Yeah,
and he's got grandkids, and
Yeah.
I'm jealous, but that's
his
okay.
kids are having kids, and yeah, I'm
Yeah.
enjoying that.
Well, enjoy them because you get to send them home.
Yes,
And you get to play with them, and you're going to be here to do it.
Yeah, and I'm having Easter. I'm cooking. As a matter of fact, when I got diagnosed, it was Christmas.
Oh my goodness.
And I was having a big Christmas Eve dinner, and everybody's like, "Are you still gonna have it?" And I said, "Well, yes, I'm gonna have." Because if I didn't do
The
that,
holidays
that
would
would have
be
made me
oh,
mental.
yeah.
So me having
Keeping busy,
keeping busy, yeah,
keeping busy, thinking positive,
yep,
surrounding yourself with good people, but most of all, get them boobies smashed.
get them
Get them
smashed,
checked.
checked.
And like she said, if you're not comfortable, if you're worried, if you've got a strong family history, ask for a PET scan.
Or I think there's another one too, but
I've
not
heard
sure.
there's another one.
There's it's I don't want to say the 3D, but there is something
It's like
else
I have
that
heard
has
that
come
too,
out.
and that it's a lot easier or something. It's not so
Yeah, but I wonder if it goes deep,
right.
because you might have to get something with contrast or dye
Right.
to find it, like
Right.
mine.
Right. Well, whatever it takes, you got to do it.
Yeah.
That's where it's important. So anyway, thank you so much.
You're
Great.
welcome.
I've wanted to have your story on here as soon as I started talking with him
Mhm.
about doing podcasts. I'm like, it needs to be told. It's got to get out there, and I really appreciate you coming to do it.
No
And I
problem.
hope everybody listens and takes heed and listens again for my next podcast, which I will be coming up in a couple weeks. And thank you, Alan. Do you have any questions?
No, all good.
You don't want to know anything about that subject?
No, not really.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you again, Robin. I really appreciate you coming. This has been kind of tight scheduling with
Yeah.
everybody's world life going on,
Mhm.
but it's been good.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yes. And maybe we'll do a checkup in 6 months and
Yeah.
see how it's going.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll have the new boobs by then.
Yes. Well,
I don't-
May 12th is my surgery.
I don't know if Alan will let us show anybody, but you know,
No.
That's all you.
But that's what they're
that's
gonna,
all you.
Yeah, they're going to use my own tissue. They take from your stomach. And
Oh,
yeah,
I got
so,
some to spare.
Yeah.
Like
So
somebody
we'll
there
see
going,
how
"Oh."
that works out.
Right. Well, again, thank you for coming or listening and tuning in or whatever you want to call it for a podcast. I don't know what it would be, but Alan had wanted me. Do I have a couple minutes, Alan? Alan had wanted me to show a couple of my cards. He's been telling me I do make these cards, and if you're interested, you can always let me know. I have several left, and I can always make more. But like this one is an Easter card, and I have Just Brave. This would have been a good one for you because in the inside it says, "You'll never live this moment again."
No.
You know. But I have them for all different occasions. There's birthday. There's a great one for our veterans. Thank you. I have a kitty cat one. And they all have different sayings inside. I've got,
I like the kitty cat one.
you like that one? I got some doodles
Says
for
meow.
Doodle Dog. I don't know if you can see it. There's a hummingbirds. And they all, some have different sayings, but like I said, I have a whole bunch of different line of cards. If anybody's interested, you can find me on Facebook, Cindy Camp Spain, and let me know, and maybe I can make you a special one. In the meantime, I'll see you in a couple weeks, or I'll talk to you in a couple weeks, and come back then. Thank you for listening.